Today's video will be about engravings. Engravings using our trusty old K40 laser. Yes, of course we can engrave so much stuff and it always looks so cool. I'm a big fan. You can engrave so many materials and they always look like something professionally manufactured. Especially in prototyping, that's a pretty cool thing. When you combine it with 3D prints, for example, you can make yours a nice top plate with the cutouts for the switches and some numberings and letterings and stuff using the K40, and then you combine 3D printed with laser cut things, and it always looks professionally made. We can engrave so many materials with the laser. A lot of them are not even mentioned. Of course, we have acrylics, we have wood, we have even mirrors that I showed off in another video quite a while back, I think. Of course, we have to engrave the backside to remove the mirror coating. We can even engrave the Death Star or parts of it onto tiles. We can do so much stuff. Another method would be to cut out things, and I don't know if you can see this, but you can cut out things in black and blue, for example, and then glue it together in order to make you a translucent logo out of acrylics. That's another method you can choose that works as well. However, when you engrave onto acrylics, for example, and this is white acrylic, of course the lettering will be white as well, so pretty hard to read. Well, of course there's a pretty easy trick to it, and I think you guys will know it. Spray paint or some acrylic paint. You spray over it, let it dry, and then you use a towel or a piece of paper and some acetone, and you carefully remove the spray paint from the acrylics, leaving behind the engravings filled with whatever color you like. This always also works great with gold or silver or whatever. Usually acrylics come with this plastic film. You can leave this on there, you engrave onto it, you use spray paint, and you can pull this off later on. Works sometimes, does not work every time, depending on what you're engraving. It's always a little risky, but however, you can always remove most of the paint or all of the paint using some acetone. When we engrave onto wood, of course we're using evaporation process using a laser, high heat, so we will basically burn the wood or the lettering into the wood. What leaves behind, of course, letters that are brown to black, it's burned, so we can sand it off to make it a little bit cleaner, but the actual letters will remain black. We cannot use spray paint on it because you will not be able to wipe it off afterwards using some acetone. So what I do is sometimes, depending on the project, I use some wood filler. This is pine wood filler. So you do your engravings and you pass over with some wood filler, you sand it off, and it gives you a nice settled finish. It will not pop like black on white, but it will give you a nice stylish wooden sign. Can be a very nice thing. You can pass over with some wood stain afterwards of your choice and whatever, and it gives you a pretty nice result. I will show you this in a minute. That's basically that idea. And then there's another thing that I read about in a forum, and that's this stuff. This is a powder coating powder that I managed to buy off eBay. Powder coating uses heat in order to melt together into a enamel coating. And I read that you can use, for example, whatever material you like, wood or acrylics, or I think even metal, I'm not sure, but I will test this out today. You pass with your laser, make your engraving, then you go over with some powder coating, and you do a second pass in order to melt the powder coating and burn it permanently into your working material. Professionals, I have no idea about powder coating, by the way, but professionals, they use a special gun that uses high voltage, so you clamp on your electrode. I don't know if it's positive or negative. I think it's positive, I'm not sure. And you have a gun, an air-powered gun, where you put this powder in, and when you spray it, the electrostatic charge keeps this powder stick onto your working material, and then you hang it into an oven, and it gets baked for quite a long time for quite a specific temperature in order to melt this powder down and give it a permanent enamel coating. Yeah, so I thought maybe I can build myself, not today, but another day, a miniature version of that, because I found this thing. This is a sandblaster airbrush gun. I never heard about this thing. I stumbled over it on Alibaba, I think. However, I found this thing varying in price pretty much from 78 bucks, I think, down to 23 bucks. I got this thing for 23 bucks from Amazon, and it comes with everything you need. And I bought me some high voltage generators, so I can make myself a little rig in order to load this thing up into this airbrush and then powder coat tiny little pieces with powder coating. I have no clue if this works, but that's the theory of the idea. If you like the idea, let me know in the comments. I make it a video. Else, there's so much stuff I do off camera because I don't want to bother you with too much nonsense. But maybe if this is interesting to you, let me know and I will make it a video one day. However, let's get started. Let's get started with some wood filler, just to give you an idea how this looks. So next I will give it a little sanding, sand off the charring. My laser tube is still the original laser tube that I got with the machine, I think in 2013 or 14. So yeah, it is pretty weak and I definitely need a new one. So that will be definitely an upcoming video very soon of how I finally replace my laser tube in the K40 laser. But for now, we dance with the girls that are there, if that's a sentence you say in English. Now I simply go over this and smear this on there. Make sure to press it into the engraving. And after that, we will set it to dry. So as this dried up now, I will sand it down to remove all the excess. So this is after sanding. This was a quick job. You can do this way more beautiful than I did. I just went over it pretty fast, but it's not 100% dry yet. But yeah, you see, you got some wood filler filled writing there. I go ahead, take a little piece of cloth here. Not sure if I should use blue wood stain and maybe some polish. Let's try some blue wood stain, why not? I haven't used this a lot yet, so this is basically, here in Europe you find this as a powder and you mix it with water yourself. Let's see. Well, it is blue, that's for sure. But yeah, does not look as pretty as I hoped so. The thing is, I think because it's not all the way dry yet, the dry parts probably will not suck up that much of this paint. So maybe this is already dried and this is still somehow wet. Yeah, it gets worse and worse. However, you get the idea, you know what I mean. You can use wood filler in order to get quite cool things. Even this came out a little bit ugly. For the powder coating experiment, I'm working on a little layout. I make a little placket, actually based on my last video I uploaded a couple of days back, where I built this animatronic dragon puppet that sits on your shoulder and breathes smoke and stuff. And I asked in that video if somebody can come up with a name for it, and somebody did. And actually my girlfriend and I, we love the name, so we just adopted it right away. And that idea came from Techie Steve. Thank you so much. Techie Steve is one of my first Patreons, ever Patreons, still is, and supports my channel for years now. And he came up with the name Smolder. And Smolder is just perfect because he cannot breathe fire, he just can breathe some smoke. So he's just smoldering on your shoulder. Perfect. So yeah, he officially now named Smolder, and I'm making a little plaque with a description. And by the way, Techie Steve, if you read this, maybe you see some little Easter eggs in there. And I will try this first on wood because I don't know how powder coating will behave before I ruin a whole sheet of acrylic. Then I will try possibly some metal just to see what happens. If it bonds to metal, I have no idea. Let's try it out. So as I think this will make a mess, I will first off start off with a piece of cardboard. Of course, watch out that the laser does not ignite it. A piece of scrap wood just to raise it a little bit, because my laser bed is a little bit deeper than the standard one. So I have more choice of moving stuff around. And then the working material. And I tend to weigh it down with some steel pieces here, especially when I know that I have to touch it later on, because we have to make a second pass and we have to make sure that nothing moves. So yeah, I will test this now. I will just engrave it without cutting it out, and then I will apply some of the powder coating. Okay, so I will turn off the laser for now, because I will have to move it back in order to have access. I will remove the air assist for now, because of course we don't want to blow away this very fine powder. So I try to sprinkle on some of this powder coating powder. This is way too coarse, so I try to add a little piece of cloth here. This is just like kitchen wipes. They have little holes in it, maybe this works. I will just add some of the powder just to see how this behaves. I will start the fan and then start the engraving. Let's see. I must confess, it does not look too promising. I will take off a metal plate and yeah, let's see. So it definitely melted, but I don't know if it really melted in a good way. I decreased the power. In the beginning it was at 100% of my laser output, which is 15 watts, and then I decreased it until almost nothing left. Let's see if we see a difference and how we can proceed with this method. Try to clap the stuff out. Ugh. This does not look too good. Okay, so well, it definitely melted parts together, but it did not hold inside of the wood. I will give it a spray of compressed air. Maybe the font is too small. I could imagine that for something bigger it could work. Let's maybe just try it again, but with the first subscribe logo. So I decreased the power now to, well, to like the bare minimum. Like it's just a touch on the button before the laser tube goes out all the way. All right, second try. Let's remove the weights. And as I said before, I decreased the power, and the second part of this logo looks a little bit better, I think. Let's tap off the excess. And how does this look? It's still like more burned or melted around it. I mean, when I use some sandpaper, which I'm going to do right now, maybe it will give a better result. This is how it looks when it is sanded. It is not too bad actually, but it's not consistent. You know, you see still some of the burn marks. It can be interesting for certain projects, maybe. I think for my little placket that I want to make for the dragon, I won't not be able to use this method because it's not what I expected. I will still try some metal. As I said before, got me a piece of aluminum here that I roughened up a little with some sandpaper, and I do the same thing. I will put some powder coating on right away and try to engrave this logo again directly onto aluminum, hoping that maybe this powder coating bonds to it. As we know, we cannot really engrave onto metal, but maybe with the powder coating we can kind of engrave something onto metal. That's quite an interesting thing. Okay, so I will do a second pass right away. I will put another coat of powder coating powder in here. By the way, I found out this method works pretty well with a piece of metal. You can tap it against it and it comes out very nicely. I must confess, this looks way more promising on metal. Let's see, let's get rid of the excess powder. Well, it at least melted it onto it, but does it stay on it? Let's zoom in a little and let's pull focus and bring down the exposure. Doing this with one hand is not too easy, but it works. Okay. Now, will it hold up onto metal or will it just scrape off? Let's try. Unfortunately, you can just scrape it off like this. I will clean it up a little further, maybe under running water, and then we'll see if this somewhat works. So washing this thing under running water, it leaves us with quite a little bit of a very light kind of marking on metal. It looks better than on wood, I must confess, but it's too light. I mean, from my angle, which would be like this, you don't even see the marking. So is it worth it, in my opinion? No, I don't think so. Unfortunately, I was hoping that powder coating powder would do wonders in things of engraving. I'm pretty sure, or maybe I'm doing it wrong. If you guys use powder coating powder to engrave with your K40 laser, please let me know what am I doing wrong. Do I need more passes? Do I have to put more powder on there, or maybe less output power or more output power? I don't know. For now, I will put this bag of powder back in the shelf of powders, and yeah, unfortunately, this for now at least is a fail. Now in this case I will stick with my classic workflow of engraving it onto a piece of acrylic right now and then use some spray paint in order to make the writing more visible. Liquid chrome. Well, in conclusion, powder coating powder might work for certain things, but I haven't found out yet exactly how to work with it. And for my outcomes, well, as I said before, it worked on metal, kind of. The nice thing though, it is very permanent. You cannot scrape it off and you cannot wash it off. It is quite permanent on there, even it is not very present in things of color, but I suppose when you use a different color that is not gray on gray, it might work a little bit better. On wood, mixed results can be interesting for something, because you cannot really tell that it is painted, you cannot really tell that it is, I don't know what you can tell. You cannot really tell anything. It looks quite okay, but it does not work on small high detail things. It works on bigger logos and it gives quite a nice effect. I will maybe use this in the future for something. I hope somebody of you guys come up in the comments with some ideas how to do this better, and I'm pretty sure and certain that there is some kind of trick with these things. Well, the wood filler usually works pretty well. I made some very nice things. This thing came out pretty ugly. But, you know, things happen. Yeah, but you get the idea, and you can make quite cool stuff with this. However, I finished my little acrylic sign for my little dragon project I had. So finally I can finish this project off by putting the sign right next to him. Thanks again Techie Steve, for the name Smolder. However, I hope you enjoyed. Even the outcome is not that great as it was planned. I see you on the next one. Until then, see ya.